Morning.
Morning. And guess what?
Mark.
This is the first weekday morning that I've not had to travel to Cambridge for my radiotherapy. I'm all done.
Good. Thank God.
Honestly, my boob is so happy.
Are you a happy boob?
Such a happy boob.
First of all, I just want to say another just really big thanks to Donna, because I don't feel, having edited the last episode, I don't feel like I said thank you enough. And I'm sure it wasn't just Donna. I'm sure it was her beautiful children, Charlotte and Cameron, or I always call him Camembert. So Camembert, if you're listening, Camembert.
So you've forgotten what his name is.
Well, yeah, what his actual name is. Camembert, Charlotte, Donna, and Anita, who is one of my favourite people on this planet. Anita is Donna's mum. And she is mine and Tessa's mum that's looking after us since we don't have our mum.
Oh, that's cute.
On this planet at the moment. But she's my mum's best friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're their whole family, my whole family. But yeah, thanks, Donna.
No, I was going to try and do a really big thank you, but I don't know how to do a big, because they can't see what I'm doing. So,
well, they can if they're on YouTube.
Yeah, do a really big thanks.
A really big one. I'm now going to change the subject.
What?
Because something huge happened to me last night.
Oh my goodness.
You're not going to believe it. I honestly can't even believe it. So Claire was working nights last night. The kids are away spending the Easter weekend with their daddy. So they're all having lovely time. I got back from work fairly late, grabbed my computer, took it upstairs, sat in bed, put the telly on, doing the editing, sorting the show out for the Friday just gone. And also on that note, I just want to say I'm really, really sorry that it wasn't up and available first thing in the morning, but I was up editing till 3:30 in the morning, which was fine. I mean, I enjoy doing it, and that's pretty much all I bring to the podcast. You do everything else. So I just thought, right, I'll get it edited in my own time. Fine. So I was having a lovely time. I was editing it. I was giggling. I mean, not at the story, not the horrendous murder, but you know, the bits in between where we fluff it up and that kind of thing. And in it, you're talking about EVPs, and that was actually the bit that I was laughing at, because that actually took us several takes, which I didn't remember.
I kept forgetting what EVP meant, and then I'd scroll back and go, "Oh, that's what it was." 2 seconds later, I forgot what it meant.
I know. But while you were talking about the EVP, you also mentioned Spirit Box as well, which is slightly different to EVP, where it picks up the voice. The Spirit Box will create a word. So I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole. I was looking on these videos on YouTube. I was finding out all about these spirit boxes. So it apparently, some people were saying on the web that it takes like less energy for the spirit to go via a spirit box than it does to actually go via EVP and use their voice. So I thought, oh, that's so interesting. When we do our first visit, wherever it might be, we should see if we can get a spirit box, because that would be quite cool to have that, you know, on camera. So then I started looking up, and I thought, I wonder how much they are, where you can get them from, if I've got any kind of microphone setup that might serve as a spirit box. So I started looking into it, and there was quite a few people that said, oh, you can get a Spirit Box app on your phone. And I thought, oh, well, that's much easier. So obviously I looked it up. I found the one that they were talking about, and I downloaded it.
Oh, I feel like I know where this is going.
Uh-huh. Oh, it was so creepy. It was the wrong time to do it at 1 o'clock in the morning
When you're home alone.
when I was home alone. So what happened was I downloaded it and I looked at it and I thought, it's very basic. I think it's probably more of a game, I guess, than an actual serious spirit box. So I didn't really think anything of it. And I thought, oh, for God's sake, all good. Get the editing done. So I put it on the bed next to me and I carried on going. Because I'm suffering with hot flashes, I periodically was putting the fan on full blast and I'd got up and turned it so it doesn't oscillate. It just stays right on me.
Stays right on your face.
Yeah, and it's on full, but it's got a remote. So when I was sort of thinking, oh, I'm really hot, I was clicking it on. But when I was clicking it on, it kept blowing the ends of my hair kind of up, like into my face periodically. And I sort of kept going like that. So I felt something go like that down my face. And I went, oh, for God's sake. And I thought, where's the remote to turn the fan off? And then I realised it wasn't on. And I thought, what the hell was that just touched my face? And as I thought that, my little spirit box said, touched somebody.
Shut up. No.
Obviously at this point,
did you just leg it out of the house and sleep somewhere else?
Well, I'll tell you what my reaction was. My reaction was to go absolutely motionless. I mean, I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I actually didn't know what to do. And I thought, Jesus, okay, so maybe that's just a coincidence.
How could that be a coincidence?
This terror then brought on a hot flash.
Yeah.
So but because I didn't have my little laptop table. I had sort of a pillow. So I was in bed under the duvet with a pillow and my laptop, which was plugged in as well. So I obviously then thought, I'm getting really hot. So I clicked the fan on and I, trusted old trick, stuck one leg out the side of the covers. The spirit box then piped up again and said, exposed.
I'm not happy about this, Kate.
No. So me having not ever done anything like this, I don't know what the rules are, and I'm sorry if anyone gets angry because I've done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
However, I said, where are you? Instant regret.
Absolutely. Behind you.
It said, next to place. And I thought, place? Next to place? What place? Next to me? It then said, dissect. And so at that point, I whipped my leg back in the cover, hot flash or not. By that point, I'd gone like...
You'd rather internally combust.
Juicy cold. Yeah, exactly. So I said, what happened to you? And it said, oppressed. And I said, oppressed by who?
Whom?
What? Yeah, whom?
Whom?
Whom oppressed you? I didn't get any response to... I think probably because I said who.
Oh, yeah, and that wasn't correct.
Next one said whom. No, it didn't. Whom, idiot. Yeah, so I said, what happened to you? And it said, hospital. You were at the hospital. Why were you at the hospital? And it said drugs. And then I asked if they could tell me their name. And it said broad. And I thought, are you some broad?
Broad.
What's happening? Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what that was. And I said, I apologise. And I said, I'm not very good at this. I don't really know what you're allowed to say or what you're able to say. I don't know the rules. I jumped in and I'm stupid. And I said, are you able to tell me your name or tell me who you are or anything like that? And the spirit box said, friend obeys. And I said, okay, can you tell me where you are? And it said dresser. So that's straight ahead of me when I'm in bed. That's literally right opposite me. And I said,
Probably just standing at the foot of your bed, just staring at you.
well, that's exactly where the dresser is, at the foot of the bed. So they would have been standing literally at the foot of the bed. And I said, do you know me? And they said, photographer.
Oh,
And that is what I do.
that is.
I said, where were you? And it said pond. And I said, you were in a pond? And it said curved pond.
Right.
And I said, like a river? And they said, with swollen wrist. And I said, you had a swollen wrist? And it said, and neck veins.
I don't know what to make of all of this. I've got
Honestly,
goosebumps.
No. Can you imagine
so scared
how
for you?
I was asking these things, but I kind of didn't really. I don't know. I don't know why I did it. I don't know.
Dug yourself into a hole that you couldn't quite get out of.
I didn't have a bad feeling though, and I do trust my feeling, and I do trust the vibes that I get.
It wasn't there to do anything.
Yeah, I didn't feel
it was a bad spirit.
Yeah, it was more goosebumps and
like, you can't believe this is happening.
Terror of, I can't believe this is actually happening, and most of it seems to be kind of making sense.
Yeah.
So I said, are you able to tell me who you are? And it said nervous. And I said,
me too, mate. Me too.
And I was like, no shit. I said, I'm pretty sure maybe I can help you. Maybe there's something I can do to help you. And it said invalid. Like straight away, as soon as I said that, it said invalid. And I said, are you able to, if you can't tell me your name, are you able to give me like a hint of who you are? And it said unloving Cooper. And I thought, who's Cooper? And I said, do you know what happened to you? Have you got
murdered?
Yeah. Did someone hurt you? Did someone come after you? And they said, I subdued. And then literally straight away it said with rope.
Oh my goodness. The man might be wired swollen wrists and swollen neck.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. And I said, do you know who it was? And they said Playful J. Like as in Jay, Playful J.
Oh my goodness.
And I said,
you need to do some research in your area about if there was any unsolved murders.
And I said,
people found in rivers.
Yeah. And I said, who is Playful J to you? Do you know them? And they said Cheerless. And at that point it was 3:30 in the morning, and I had to just say good night to them and and leave it at that. And then this morning when I got up, there was one little word on there and it said forlorn.
Oh,
sad.
Oh, forlorn that you left.
Yeah. Right.
What story have you got for me today? I feel like that was the story.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. Whoops.
That's a great story though. I would have been absolutely pooping myself. As soon as it said touch somebody, I'd have been like, I am leaving.
Yeah, I did think about it. I did think, yeah, I'm out. But then
great job for engaging.
Curiosity. But yeah, when we go somewhere, we'll definitely give that a bit of a sesh.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that. I hate that.
Sesh. Who are you?
I could be possessed. This might not even be me. I could be, the real me could be upstairs asleep still.
Don't say that.
So, today's story is a well-known one, and I'm pretty sure that you do know it because I think you've mentioned it before. I'm going to tell you the story of Robert the Doll. So this story comes with a slightly different warning. So people have reported that they've witnessed strange and sometimes harmful phenomena after either viewing Robert the Doll, talking about Robert the Doll, or even looking at photos of Robert the Doll.
Is it too late to back out of this?
No, yeah, I mean,
yes. Get a stand-in
yes,
host.
yes, no, it's too
Also,
late.
so you've done all this research, and then now this weird stuff's happening to you.
That's a good point. Although I did download the spirit box, or did I? What if someone
It's like a
made me do
self-fulfilling
it?
prophecy, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. So people that get these occurrences after viewing Robert the Doll, talking about him, meeting him, it's best to kind of say a bit of a, thank you for allowing me to talk about you. Thank you for letting me post pictures of you, and just put it out to the atmosphere.
Be a bit respectful about Robert.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to push your luck and try it, that's on you. But every time I did any research or looked or saved any photos or anything like that, I was very in the headspace of, thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate it. Because I thought I don't want to risk bringing anything on. I've had
Download a spirit box.
yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that, because literally everything in the last week has broken. My car's broken down. I've got 2 generators for work. Both of those broke.
Oh.
I've had the camera that I use for work that it didn't break, but I've had issues with it. Our dishwasher broke.
Oh no.
It's all been really like big major things that we need and use, and all these things have broken like in the last week or so. So yeah, maybe I need to do a little bit more gratitude to Rob. Oh, sorry, that was so God's sake. To Robert. Thank you, Robert.
Don't nickname him. What are you
I
doing?
just shortened his name to blimmin'
Mate,
Rob.
Rob.
All right, Rob. I just did it again, and even worse. Robert, just thank you for this whole episode, and forgive me for everything I'm about to say. For everything I do and everything I say, just in general, for the rest of my life, would be amazing. Let's talk about the actual doll, Robert. So he was made in the 1880s, thereabouts, but the actual date is unknown. He is actual child size. So he's about 40 inches tall, and he's stuffed with wooden straw or wood straw, which is also known as Excelsior stuffing. Excelsior.
Yeah, that sounds like a spell, doesn't it?
Excelsior. And Robert also wears a sailor's suit.
Yeah, I've seen that.
One of the possible origins of Robert the Doll was that he was made during a dark ritual by an angry and disgruntled servant of the Otto family. And this servant of the Otto family had been, or she felt that she'd been mistreated by the family. And she made this doll, and then it was given to their son as like revenge. However, a lot of people dispute that. Another possible origin or rumor that goes round as to its origin is that it contains the spirit of a baby that was fathered by Robert Jean's father. So Robert Jean's father had apparently had an affair with his servant Emmeline, and she gave birth to a baby girl, but unfortunately the baby died. Now, there is some truth to this, in as much as there is a baby girl that's recorded on the census for the 1900s. But when they look at the 1905 census, there's no record of that baby existing. So, but they state, although birth records were more accurate, and the census was more accurate, they weren't particularly good at keeping the death records up to date. So they said it's highly likely that there wouldn't be a death certificate for the child. All they know is that the child was within 5 years old because it showed up on one census but not the other. But they do acknowledge that the child existed. So with that, the rumours are that Emmeline was pissed with Robert Jean's father, Mr. Otto, and she used voodoo to put the spirit of her deceased daughter into the doll.
Oh, goodness.
The facts that back this up, or say facts, what backs this up is that in the years since, mediums and spirit sensitive people have claimed to sense the spirit of a mixed race young girl. Oddly enough, there's been sightings of a small girl walking around and sitting in the stairwell of the house where Robert used to live as well. So there is evidence, I guess, if you can call it evidence, that says that there is the spirit of a young child, a young girl. And they say that she appears to be between 4 and 5 years old. She's dressed in a white gown, you know, like the type of white gown that they used for like burials, like a shroud.
I know what you
like
mean.
a shroud. Yeah, shroud type. She's got pigtails and nobody knows who she is. And she looks like a living human child that's seen around the house, sitting on the stairs. And she's not with anyone. No one knows who she is. Girls' laughter can be heard, and so much so that people have ended up fleeing the house in terror. Yeah, it's not something that's sort of quietly whispered. It's loud. Can you imagine if I'd heard that last night?
Oh, God. The
Oh.
sound of children's laughter. God.
Oh, God, honestly, it gets my back up straight away. So, the most factual origin, there was a lady called Margaret Steiff, and she was a seamstress, and she was from Germany. And at that time, Germany was known as Prussia. It wasn't called Germany at that point. And she had lots of clients that she used to make garments for. And she decided one day that she was going to start making little felt elephants to be used as pincushions for her clients. So when she used to give her items that she'd made, the garments and things, to her clients, she would give them these little felt elephants to use as pincushions. And then she discovered that her clients' children were actually playing with the little elephants. And this was kind of the dawning of plush toys, soft toys, because children didn't have that then. They had
wooden toys.
Yeah, they had wooden toys, you know, lead painted toys, you know, all the healthy stuff. But they didn't have like soft
cuddly
toys. Yeah. So she saw a market in that, and she thought, okay, these little pincushions that I've been making are really popular. So I'm going to start making them for that purpose, for children. So she started making all these different types of animals out of felt. And her brother Fritz would take them to the market and sell them. And they were becoming more and more and more popular, all these little felt animals. And she was making so many of these toys, and they were so popular that she enlisted the help of her brother Fritz even more. And they created this company called Steiff. And it was just a little company that made felt animals for children. And they were made so well. They were super popular. They really, the attention to detail was incredible. And they started selling them by the hundreds. banging out all these little felt fuzzies and selling them. Teddy Roosevelt was president. There was a drawing done of him in the paper that kind of, for that time, went viral. And it was him, Teddy Roosevelt, and there's a bear cub in it. And because he was Theodore Roosevelt and he was associated with Teddy. So the Steiff Company went from a small venture to quite a big company almost overnight, because they created the first teddy bear. So
that's so interesting that's
yeah.
where that's come from. I didn't know that.
And I'm 99% sure that my mum owned a Steiff teddy bear that that has got wood, you know what I was saying earlier about
Excelsior.
the Excelsior
Yeah.
stuffing. But we always called him Big Ted, because he's very big. And if he is Steiff, then the chances are he probably is worth an absolute fortune. Because I've seen small original Steiff bears and they're going for a fortune. And when I say Big Ted, I mean he's
is he the size of a child wearing a sailor suit? Because
he's not wearing a sailor suit. He is naked.
Naked.
He is completely naked. But he is the size of a child. He's big. So, but I'm pretty sure I don't know. Maybe he got ruined years ago. I don't remember. But if he is still around, then he'll be with my sister in France. But yeah. So anyway, so Steiff created the first teddy bear, and the sales of those just went through the roof. Every house in America wanted a Steiff teddy bear. And here's a fact for you. Steiff are still going today, and they still make teddy bears, and they still make sort of plush toys. Yeah, soft toys. They're a huge company. Steiff teddy bears are still pretty expensive, but it's thought that the Steiff Company, Margaret Steiff, made Robert the Doll, and the purpose of Robert the Doll was to model, this is so creepy, was to model clown outfits for children in German shop window displays.
Well, it's the modern day mannequin, I guess.
I mean,
well, not modern day, but
small clowns.
Yeah,
in shop windows. Oh, that'd be creepy now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so now I'm gonna talk about Robert, Jean, Otto, and Robert the Doll. So what I'll try and do is, because this did get confusing, because obviously they're both called Robert, and one is a child, a boy, and
Robert
the other
Senior,
one,
Robert Junior.
Yeah, it got a bit confusing. However, what I found out is very few people called Robert Jean Otto called him Robert. They called him Jean.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes
because
it
of the confusion. Don't name your child the same name as you.
Yeah. Well, no, it's the child and the doll.
Oh, I see.
Robert, not the father.
Not the okay. See, I'm confused already.
No, I know. See how easy it is to get confused. No, so Robert Jean Otto is the child,
mm-hmm.
and I'll explain it now. So 1904, Robert the Doll arrives in Key West, more specifically 534 Eaton Street, Key West, Florida. So the home of the Otto family, and the Ottos were half English and half German, apparently. And obviously the name Otto is a German name. So the mother of the Otto family was in Germany, and she brought home this doll made by the Steiff Company for her son Robert. So there's a lot of factual evidence.
Yeah, this seems more plausible.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it seems far more likely that this is the origin of Robert the Doll, rather than he was created in a ritual and
mm-hmm.
He wasn't. He was made in Germany. So she brought the doll home for her son, Robert. So at this point, Robert was 4 years old, and their house was built between 1890 and 1898. And it is now known as the Artist's House. The family moved into the house in 1898, and the boy's name was, his full name was Robert Eugene Otto. And he was, like I said, he was called Gene by a lot of people. Gene's father owned 2 pharmacies in the town, and this was where he made their money. He was actually a doctor, but I found out that in those days, although nowadays you say, oh, if someone's a doctor, the chances are they're probably, you know, well off, or at least financially comfortable. And that kind of didn't go hand in hand in those days. If you were a doctor, you were kind of just expected to be a doctor and help people if they needed it. It wasn't about, you know, whether they had insurance, whether they had the money to pay for it or anything like that. So that doctors didn't really make a lot of money at all.
Mm-hmm.
They did okay and they were comfortable, but they weren't known as a wealthy family, but they also weren't considered like poor. Gene very quickly developed what they say was an unhealthy relationship with the doll. It wasn't anything sinister. It was just kind of obsessive.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was with this doll all the time. And they said, everyone said that he was just absolutely inseparable. And Gene, actually he loved the doll so much that he named him after himself. So it was Robert Eugene Otto and Robert the doll. And he would dress Robert the doll in his own clothes. So they were very similar size to each other.
Sounds like a lonely child.
I know. But yeah, so everyone said, you know, he had this real obsession with Robert. And the sailor suit that Robert the doll is in now is Robert Gene's clothes. That's actually his outfit that he dressed Robert the doll in.
Okay.
The Otto family said, Gene's parents would say that he would blame Robert the doll for any accidents or incidents that happened in the house, anything that got broken. He would immediately say, Robert did it.
Weren't me.
Wasn't me. But I guess, you know, if you haven't got a sibling, who are you going to blame? It's going to be you, isn't it? It's your fault. Gene would say that the doll, Robert, would get up and walk around the house in front of him. He gets up, and when you're not looking, he gets up and he walks down there, and he'll like knock vases off and smash things like that. And then his parents come up and say, you know, what the hell have you done? And he's like,
he goes, well, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah, Robert done it.
Weren't me.
Yeah, so Robert would strut around the house, according to Gene, and smash things and break things. And then Gene would say, he did it. Gene would also say that when Robert broke something or smashed something, he would turn and he would smile at Gene as he did it. And I thought, Jesus Christ, if that actually did happen.
It's like the cats do that though, don't they? They look at you, smile a little bit and just knock something off the side.
Did you leave this glass here?
Did you want this intact?
I'm just going to put it on the floor. Exactly. And Gene would play with Robert in the loft, or if anyone doesn't know what a loft is, it's an attic.
Oh, yeah.
And anyone that was in the house, they had servants in the house. And even the servants would say that they could, when they were walking past the stairs that went up to the attic or loft, they could hear 2 voices. And they would hear Gene's voice, and then they would hear what sounded like a man. So a deep voice.
Oh my goodness.
That would answer him. And obviously, whether it was Gene's parents or whether it was the servants, they would think, who's in the house? So they would go upstairs to the attic to check. And obviously, every single time they would find Jean sitting there with Robert and no one else. And when friends of the family would go anywhere near the doll, walk past it, walk over to it, they said that it would very clearly, it would giggle and then they would leave.
Yeah, abruptly.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that thing that I needed to do.
Yeah, I think I left the iron on. And they're like, irons haven't been invented yet. And they're like, I left my microwave on. So yeah, and the whole family, the servants, everyone that was associated with them would say that the doll would very clearly move rooms on its own. Like no one was moving it. It would be in the living room or something, and then the next minute it would be in the kitchen, and then it would be in one of the bedrooms and that, and they'd never seen anyone, you know, lifting Robert and carrying it around the house. It would just appear in different rooms as if it had moved on its own. It's also been reported then and recent years that Robert the doll can change his expression.
Oh dear.
So we're going to go to the part where Jean grew up. So he grows up and he moves away from the family home. And Jean went to study art at the Academy of Fine Arts in Chicago. And then he went on to New York and he attended the Art Students League in New York. After his studies, he decided that he was going to go and do a bit of traveling around Europe, check out the art scene there. And he became a very popular artist, which is why their family home is now called the Artist's House, because he was a very big, popular, well-known artist. When he was in Paris, he met Annette Parker, and she's known as Anne. So, and Anne was originally from Boston, but she was studying music in Paris. They met, they fell in love, and they got married on May 3rd, 1930. Together, they moved back to New York, and Jean worked at Wanamaker's department store in New York, and he sold things like, I think he still had a lot to do with the art side of it at Wanamaker's, but they sold things like furniture and antiques and that, but he was more for the antiques, and they owned a lot of antiques. Meanwhile, Robert the doll has been in a box locked in the attic where him and Jean would play together. So he's been in this box.
I feel like this is some sort of really tragic Toy Story movie.
Yeah.
The toys come to life, and then they go to get rid of Woody, and then
he's been in the box.
Yeah.
Sadly, Jean's mother passed away, and Jean decided to move back to his family home with his wife, Anne. When they got to the family house, Jean decided to introduce Anne to his good old buddy, Robert. And Anne did not like it at all. How
would the introduction go? Just, by the way, this is my doll that I had when I was a child that
maybe he didn't call him a doll. Maybe he just said, this is, Anne.
This is Robert.
Robert, Anne. So glad that you two finally met. This is a great day. I'm just going to go and put the kettle on. Robert,
you two get acquainted.
Yeah, Robert, tell Anne about some of our childhood adventures. Oh, I'm going to get haunted.
No wonder she didn't like him.
Yeah, Anne said that she felt really uneasy with Robert the doll being in the house. She didn't like being around him. And Jean, very shortly after they moved back to the house, Jean started becoming very abusive to Anne. And I don't mean physically. It is known that Jean would become very mentally and emotionally abusive to Anne. He would do things like he would take photos of the sideboard, because this is his family home as well. So that must be really difficult for someone's partner to move in with their new husband or new wife or whatever into the home that was run and built and decorated and everything else by, I'm not saying that they built the home, but I mean, you create a home, don't you? You don't necessarily build the house, but you create the home created by your husband or wife's parents.
Yeah, it's not something you've built, like, created together, so it'd feel more home for him than it would for her.
Yeah, and it sounded like he was very specific about keeping things a certain way. So he would take photos of like the sideboard where the ornaments were and things like that, and he would say, right, here are your photos. When you clean, this is how you are to put everything back.
Oh my goodness.
So it looks
It's a bit...
and it started like that, and it kind of went on from there. So he was very, very sort of controlling, and it was like he didn't want to share any limelight with her because she was a very beautiful, very talented woman by accounts from everyone. So when Jean would have like an art exhibition to show off his artwork and things, he would either make Anne wait outside, or he just wouldn't invite her at all, because it was like he was jealous of
It was
her.
about him.
Yeah, and he wanted
when
it
you
to
said...
be about him.
When you said to me that he loved this doll and he actually named it after himself, I was going to say that's incredibly egotistical,
Yeah,
because he, if you love something, you don't need to name it after yourself,
yeah,
because you love that thing as it is. So it's quite an egotistical thing to name something after yourself that you love
yeah.
so dearly.
I mean, he was 4, so
Oh, I see.
who
Let him
knows
off.
when he named him, but
Absolute narcissist 4-year-old.
yeah. I mean, I guess it happens. Yeah, so Jean had started to become quite abusive to Anne. A short time later, Jean was sadly, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. After this diagnosis, Jean started to spend more and more time in the attic with Robert. So he would be up there every day for most of the day. I mean, Anne wasn't all right with it. She thought it was weird as well. But his health started getting worse and worse and worse fairly quickly. It was a rapid decline, but he would be with Robert the doll every day, and said that he would talk to Robert over talking to anyone else. On June 24th, 1974, Jean passed away. In the last few months of Jean's life, he pretty much wrote Anne out of his will.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I mean, they didn't hate each other. It was just bizarre, really. Anne was completely perplexed by it.
I bet she was.
Yeah. I mean, she told me, he left the house, but he left her none of the contents. Nothing at all. All of the house contents he left to his sister Mitzvah. And when I first read that, I thought, that's harsh. That's really horrible. Like, to write Anne out of everything in the house. And then when I found out that he'd left all the house contents to his sister Mitzvah, I thought, although I actually kind of get that, because it was his parents' house, and at one point it would have been Mitzvah's house as well. So you kind of
Yeah.
think a lot of that stuff in the house would have been, I think, would have been his parents, which is why he was so prissy about it. And, no, that goes there. And, that's where my mother used to keep that. So if you're going to clean it, or when you clean it and put it back exactly where she wants it, and that kind of thing. So I kind of thought, well, yeah, I get that. But then I watched this video from a historian who's studied the area, studied the family, everything about them. And he said, as I spoke about earlier, between Jean and Anne, they had a lot of antiques and they had a lot of Jean's artwork that was, by that time, was worth a lot of money. And they said that Anne could have had a comfortable like retirement and a comfortable later years in that house by just selling some of Jean's artwork, but he didn't leave any of that to her. He literally cleared the house and gave everything that was in the house to his sister, apart from Robert.
Oh.
So at this point, Anne, I guess, was pretty like done and over it. So she said, all right, well, do you know what? I'm not going to live in this house with Robert. I'm just going to sell up. So she ended up selling the house for $50,000.
That's nothing compared to things now, is it?
No. It's pretty crazy that. So she ended up selling it to their neighbour, who was actually quite a good friend of theirs. And the neighbour said to Anne, does the doll come with the house? And Anne said, excuse my language. These are her exact words. I hate that doll. It was Jean's best friend. Of course, he never could make any friends of his own. Yeah, I mean, she was...
That was his best friend because he couldn't really make any other friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so she was like... She was...
Good riddance.
Yeah, get that gone. The neighbour of the Ottos said that... And he didn't really want to speak about it. It took some coaxing from what I gather. But he said he didn't really want to talk about the doll. He said that the doll ruined the lives of two friends of his, Anne and Robert, or Robert Jean. He bought the house apparently in 1974. Now, there's a name that comes into it, a lady called Myrtle that lived there. And I don't know whether she is something to do with the neighbour or whether she's the wife of the guy that bought the house. I don't know. It was a little bit one source said this, another source said something completely different. So it was a little bit difficult to tie it together. But there was a lady called Myrtle that had moved into the house in 1974. Possibly she was a friend of the neighbours. So he bought the house and maybe, I don't know, rented it to her or something, or let her live there or something. And so she was now, Robert the doll, she was now his new caretaker. And she reports that there was weird paranormal experiences that kept happening around the house, but it didn't bother her. She was fine about it. And in fact, she actually really liked Robert, and she used to dress him up and put him on display down in the lounge.
He's such a charmer.
I know, he's working that scary magic. But yeah, she'd dress him up. She'd put him on display in the house. She thought he was a nice ornament to have. She sold the house a few years on, I think maybe 5 or 6 years later, and she actually took Robert the doll with her. So she liked him that much. However, this was a bit of a mistake to remove Robert from the house. Robert was not really entirely happy about this, and Myrtle started having bad and negative and scary incidents happening. So things kind of went from weird, paranormal, funny, quirky,
playful,
oh, look what you've done today. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, look at you trying to cut my head off, kind of thing.
God.
So yeah, so Myrtle then became terrified of Robert, and she didn't want him around her or near her or anywhere. So she decided that it was time for him to move on to greener pastures. So in 1994, she took him to the East Martello Museum, and that is where Robert the doll resides today. She told the museum that Robert can haunt people to the point of even killing them. So she believes that
he can do some damage.
Yeah, he's tough stuff, this little Robert. Robert did not appreciate this comment, and Myrtle died exactly 3 months to the day that she made that statement to the
Oh my
museum.
goodness.
So now we'll go on to the museum part. So Robert's now at the museum. So staff at the museum have said that Robert has moved rooms by himself. They say that he's played tricks on them, and staff have even reported that they've seen his head move as they walk across the room. They said that they can see his head moving
following
like that,
them.
following them across the room. When the museum is closed, they've said that they've started seeing, since Robert's been there, they've seen a small girl walking around. So, and they didn't see that before. So they said there's some kid in here wearing a white sheet, strolling around the gaff. I mean, they didn't say exactly like that, but
No.
that's kind of how I took it. One member of staff said that Robert the Doll would actually bang on the glass of the display. And
no, thank you.
So Robert the Doll on display at the museum, he comes with rules. So experts believe that there are multiple entities within Robert the Doll. They said that they do believe that there is this little girl who was potentially, who would have been Jean's half sister.
Yeah. But
they also believe that there are multiple dark entities in there as well.
I'm just looking it up at the moment. He's holding a bear a lot in a lot of these pictures. Is that a stuffed bear?
I don't actually know. I didn't see anything about it. It's like a little kind of dog.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in pretty much all of the photos, he's got this little dog.
So if you want to take a photo of Robert, you must ask his permission. And I have asked his permission several times because I've viewed his photos, I've downloaded photos, I have I have posted photos of him. So if you don't, apparently he will manifest himself into your home and show himself. He'll frighten you and maybe even hurt you. People that have taunted him, and this is many people, have later sent apology letters to the museum.
Oh my gosh.
Asking them to give the letter to Robert, asking his forgiveness and apologising, asking him if he will leave them alone. There's a whole load of letters in the museum that show it as well. You know, hello, Robert. It was so lovely to see you. I'm so sorry that I took your photo without asking your permission. But in closing, Robert Jean was a great artist, but now he's going to be most famously known for Robert the Doll. A doll that he got when he was 4 years old. It's crazy. He helped form the Key West Art and Historical Society. And the Key West Art and Historical Society, which he helped form, is the society that runs the fort, which is the East Martello Museum, where Robert is now housed.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that a crazy
circle?
Yeah, so that is the story of Robert the Doll.
Oh dear. If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.